I will move House File 3901 before the committee to be re-referred to. Where is it? To Ways and Means. There is an author's amendment, so I will move the A26 amendment. And if you'd like to briefly cover the A26 amendment, and when we have it in the shape that you would like it, then please introduce your bill.
Thank you, Chair. It's basically cleaning up some different language inside of it. This is my first time in the committee, so I'm getting used to what different committees are. The other ones just automatically take the amendment and add it. So it's basically just changing some language in here, identifying what confidential data is, and outlining different lines and changing. So, sorry.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. Is there any discussion to the A26 amendment to get the bill in the shape the author would like? Seeing none, all in favor of the A26 amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion prevails. The A26 amendment is adopted. Representative Johnson, please proceed with your bill.
Thank you, Chair, Co-Chair, members of the committee. This is another, I guess, situation of why it's so important that we finally get some modernization in the technology that we have at the state. We have two different departments that are having issues and concerns of what information can be passed on, how do we work together, timeliness and stuff like this. This has to do with the SIS program, I believe, correct?
The Office of the Foster Youth Ombudsperson
Yes,
access.
but the actual program that they're using to access the information is making it very cumbersome. And instead of being able to, one department to be able to access it, it has to go through the Department of Children's to get the information together and get it back to them. There's some disagreement, and we've actually met as late as yesterday to see if we can come up with some kind of a timeline agreement, what can be accessed, what can't be accessed, and that wasn't achieved. So basically, we're moving forward with this this bill to basically give UMFI, I guess, access to the information they need to provide the best service and care to foster families and foster children when they get called in to do some mediation and do some casework. And that's what it really boils down to, is getting that information to them on a timely basis that they can use that going forward. And I have a testifier here.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. Please introduce yourself for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, co-chairs and members. Again, my name is Misty Coons, and I'm the ombudsperson for Foster Youth. It's nice to see you again. So after nearly 2 years of being in operations, UFI is requesting changes in 3 areas of our enabling statute. That's retaliation protection, private meetings with foster youth, and records access. And I'll spend my time today discussing the records access piece, as that seems to be the area that there's more difficulty with agreements. The lack of direct access to Social Services Information System, or SSIS, greatly affects our ability to investigate decisions being made about children and youth in foster care. Since July, we have requested data from DCYF for about 1 case a week, and in that time, delays in receiving information have gotten longer. Some requests, including those related to the decision-making of DCYF, remain unfilled. In one example, it took 2 months to find out whether there were Minnesota foster youth at a facility that had made national news due to concerning allegations. DCYF has stated concerns about the burden of our requests on their staff. Giving us access to SSIS would address this concern and eliminate the time that their staff needs to spend pulling records. DCYF has also stated concerns about data related to information that is protected through attorney-client privilege, which is erroneously entered by caseworkers despite training guiding against this. This barrier to our access can and should be addressed through training of agency workers or through interagency agreements between DCYF with UFI, which we are willing to explore. We've heard concerns about data privacy, which we discussed in a letter provided to you all today and goes into more detail on that. We don't think it's reasonable to use these concerns as a justification to entirely block our direct access to information. And while there are technical concerns about SSIS, we still haven't been able to agree on what UFI should have access to and what should be left up to DCYF to decide. We've received conflicting information about who has access and to what information, and ultimately we're forced to believe that the barriers being presented to us have no workaround. While the plan is for DCYF to grant us case-by-case access in a few years with the modernization process, this does not align with the language that already exists in our statute that grants the UFI the discretion to determine the scope of an investigation. We are not required to disclose information about investigations to get data, and we see this as an issue of transparency. We have worked to find a solution since before we opened in 2024, which includes proposing an interagency agreement to address our concerns. And the reality is that we've not been able to agree on reasonable deadlines for response. And so right now, when our requests go unfilled, there's little recourse for our agency. Ultimately, we hope you can understand the predicament that we're in. We're here to investigate decisions that are being made about children and youth to ensure their health, safety, and welfare, but we are in a position of needing to request data from the agencies whose decision-making we are charged with investigating. As always, thank you for your time, and we're happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public here who would like to testify on House File 3901? Or, oh, we have a list, sorry. With Assistant Commissioner George. Please introduce yourself for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
These chairs are off.
Chair West and co-chair and committee members. My name is Rebecca St. George. I'm the Assistant Commissioner for DCYF. So first, I'd like to acknowledge that UFI's concerns about data requests taking too long are valid. For context, we received almost 400 data requests in 2025. We prioritize UFI requests the requests coming from all ombuds offices, but the fact is we are understaffed in the data request area. We're looking into internal solutions that might help make the process more efficient, including we are getting some new software in the next 2 months, I believe, that should improve our timeline. But about the bill. It's really important to note that this is very much a systems issue. SSIS is not set up to allow us to provide broad access to files while also protecting privileged information. If we gave access to all of the data in our systems, we would be out of compliance with both state and federal data privacy laws. We have concerns with the language that would give UFI direct access to any data that they decide is necessary to fulfill their duties. This would allow them to ask for personnel records, confidential investigatory data that lives with OIG, in-process facilities maltreatment investigation data, and anything else they ask for. The current law requires that the new child welfare system, which we're working on, that's being developed, that it provide the Ombudsperson for American Indian Families and the Ombudsperson for Foster Youth with case-by-case access to non-privileged information that is necessary for the discharge of the Ombudsperson's duties, including specific child protection case information while protecting tribal data sovereignty. I'm going to point out in 2024, tribal nations made it very clear that they did not want access to be given to their data without request and approval. So thank you for allowing me to testify on this bill on behalf of the agency, and I am open to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else present who would like to testify on this bill? Seeing none, I will close public testimony and move on to member discussion. Well, I guess I have Chair Katiza-Watun.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for bringing this issue forward. I know, UFI has been working really hard on behalf of our fosters statewide, and given the presentations and information that this committee has received previously about the status of SSIS. I commiserate alongside you. That's a big part of the reason why we invested $35 million last session into not fixing the system, creating a new system that is going to be more workable. I guess I'm hopeful that perhaps the Assistant Commissioner can give us a little bit more information on the process of one of these data requests. Like when the Ombudsperson's office requests additional data, it's my understanding that the system doesn't allow us to pull anything from, like you can't like pull something and print it. You have to I don't know. I would maybe not explain this well, but it's my understanding you can't like run a full report. And so I'm just curious how your department deals with those data requests and kind of what is the process in order to get the information back to the Ombudsperson's office.
Commissioner St. George.
Thank you, Chairman West, and thank you, Co-Chair. I don't think I can speak with much detail about what it takes to pull the information from SSIS. I can tell you that the requests go through our general counsel's office. We have a data privacy attorney who takes the requests, finds the appropriate people within CSP to get the data that is being looked for, pull the data. I don't actually know what it takes to pull the data, but they then have to redact it, and we don't have any sort of automatic redaction to take care of the privileged information, and then we provide the information. But it's a multi-step process, but also as you know, SSIS is, if I could say, a beast. And so it's not a quick or easy process to get that information out.
Chair Katiz-Watun.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that. So when you say that there's no automatic redaction, what does that entail? And so when somebody is, that you are redacting that private data prior to sending that information back to the Ombudsperson's office, how long are these reports typically, and what is the timeline? You said that you're understaffed. What is kind of the typical return time frame, or how long would it take for somebody to go through and redact that by hand? Or is there software that, okay, no.
Commissioner St. George.
Thank you, Chairman West. The timeline depends on the quantity of information being asked for. My understanding is that the requests from UFI in particular have varied from between about 10 pages of information to around 30. And the redaction includes review from our attorneys as well as review from our subject matter experts.
Thank you for that. I have a quick question on violating state and federal law. It might be for nonpartisan, but I assume that UFI employees are also bound by privacy laws and anything else like any other state government employee. So I can see why it'd be a violation of law to share it with the public or something like that. But within state government, is that also a violation of state law? Are there other cases of that we are aware of? Ms. Sunderman.
Mr. Chair, members, I think that is a better question for the experts on the Judiciary Committee, but in general, yes, an employee of a state agency such as the Office of Foster Youth Ombudsperson would be bound by state data privacy laws.
Commissioner St. George.
Thank you. The problem is that we're separate departments, and we are the agency that oversees the federal 4E program where there's certain recommendations that we keep internally. And so UFI is tasked with investigating us, which they do a very good job of doing. But there's a separation there that requires us to keep some information private. There's information that I can't see as the assistant commissioner. There's information that everybody within CSP can't necessarily see. So there's not anybody who's a state employee or even anybody who's a CSP employee gets to see all of the information. There are restrictions within that.
All right. Chair Katiz-Watun, briefly, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess with the mention of the Judiciary Committee, I'm just wondering if we think that this bill should go before the Judiciary Committee as it has some data practices issues.
Does it? Chair could use it with two, what, two?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, it's my understanding that it's an automatic referral to judiciary with the Chapter 13. Okay.
Chief. Yes.
Okay.
So I will amend my motion. So I will go to Representative Johnson to close out his bill before we send it on its way to judiciary.
Thank you, Chair, co-chair, members. As you can see, this is probably a good example of departments trying to figure out how to work with each other and what you can and can't get. But the bottom line is this, I hate to say this because it's become a cliche. It's about the kids. It's about the families. As a elected official, I was county commissioner, and we recognize how important and how valuable foster families are as they take in foster youth, and we celebrated it. We even had a dinner. We just had to, bring them in to recognize it. And so for them coming in and then all of a sudden hearing the complications when they have a need and some service, the complications, they shouldn't have to care about the issues that are going on down here and how long it takes because our software is old. This person can't see this one. We need to work better together. And I just don't want to, we shouldn't make them wait for a long period of time, 2 years, 3 years, whenever, to start getting the information they need so they can continue on with what they are concentrating on, and what they care about is taking care of the youth. And they are stepping up for that, and we need to make sure we're there for them. I do look forward to, fine-tuning this, seeing how we can make this work in full transparency. Also, on my way in, I received, actually after I got here, I was notified that White Earth Reservation sent in a letter to me saying that they have reservations about it. I look forward as we move forward and do this, that we can also, I think you mentioned that with the reservations, with the tribes, that I hadn't had a chance to read it, so I don't know what the reservations, they just said they had some concerns. I look forward to working with them and both departments as we try to make this work, just like we tried yesterday. Ultimately, we just have to do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Representatives. So I will renew my motion that House File 3901, as amended, be re-referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Civil Law. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The motion prevails, and the bill is on its way. Thank you, Representative Johnson.